The year is 1962. Soviet missile bases are detected in Cuba. John Glenn becomes the first American to orbit the Earth.
This is Friendship 7, reading you loud and clear.
Elvis Presley is all the rage, and Wilt Chamberlain scores 100 points in one game. In that same year, in a small office on Chestnut Street in Springfield, Massachusetts, the Lower Pioneer Valley Regional Planning Commission opened its doors. Serving as a general store for the region, this new planning agency addressed a wide range of concerns from member communities, federal and state agencies, and civic groups throughout the Pioneer Valley. Its goal was to improve the quality of life for all residents by promoting regional collaboration among communities, bringing them together to solve problems, and to pursue opportunities that went beyond municipal boundaries. The district was launched by 6 communities at its organizational meeting: Springfield, West Springfield, Westfield, Agawam, Southwick, and Middlefield. Edward C. Peck, a lawyer serving on the West Springfield Planning Board, was voted chairman.
The germ of the idea came from Mayor Putnam. He decided that there was a sort of a groundswell for regionalization at the time. We'd already been involved in the community with a regional water system, and we were confronted with the Connecticut River as a flowing sewer. There was a Dr. Davidson that rode the whole length of the 400 miles of the Connecticut River and highlighted the fact that it was an open sewer.
We now have 4 years of bacteria monitoring under our belt, and I can really say that the data shows that during dry weather, bacteria levels are low. One thing that today is very exciting. We're training our volunteers for our Connecticut River Bacteria Monitoring Program. It's our 5th season, and it will begin May 31st. It's very exciting. We'll have a group of 9 volunteers here tonight, and they'll be trained in how to sample the water for their weekly sampling. And those samples will be analyzed for E. coli bacteria, and then that data is posted on our website where the public can access it so they can be informed about bacteria levels in the river. The Connecticut River and the rivers in the region are an economic driver. They're really important for tourism. The recreation on the river is huge. There are several marinas, yacht clubs. There's a huge rowing community out of this boathouse. The river is fantastic for swimming and boating.
In many ways and shapes and form, we become sort of a general store for cities and towns. They come to us for a whole range of things. It starts with planning, but really the plans that are most successful are the ones that make things happen. Getting things done is as important as the quality of the plans itself. So things like knowing that the plans we made for cleaning up the Connecticut River, we've gotten to the point where we've got Class B, which is fishable, swimmable water above the Holyoke Dam. We're still working on the rest of it. The fact that we have a public transit authority that we didn't have in the 70s, that came out of our plans, and that carries now over 11.3 million people a year.
So the majority of the riders don't have access to a vehicle. In the south, we've got City of Springfield, City of Chicopee, City of Holyoke, City of Westfield, West Springfield. In the north, servicing the 5 colleges, Amherst, Smith, Mount Holyoke, Hampshire, and UMass. People going to work. We got parents, seniors, we've got elders, the mobility impaired. All of those folks are trying to get from point A to point B.
I've been using the van for over 20 years, mostly to go to work, sometimes for other appointments or events. It sort of allows me to be independent and, you know, where I don't have to ask somebody for a ride.
Most of the time, the historical commissions will come to us here at PVPC. The way it works is that an historical commission in a community will decide that it has to keep up, it has to do more inventory work, or it's ready now to put something on the National Register, either as an individual building or as an historic district. What makes me excited about my work is that I get to go to a town and I get to cast their history in a different light than they're used to. They deal with the narrative of their town historically, then I go in and I relate that history to what their historic resources are, so that I can go into lever and I can look at archaeological site of a grist mill that was, say, founded in 1794. But then what I can do is I can say, and this is where the miller lived who built it in 1794, and this is where the mechanic lived who designed the mill equipment that went in there and fabricated it. And I can then say, and these little houses over here that have been ignored, this is where the workers lived. So when they have issues coming up in town about zoning and preservation and community character, my document gives them the information they need to say, these are priorities for us in our community.
Well, we have a very interesting valley. We work with 43 different communities, and each community has its own personality, and they're very diverse and different from one another. We do very careful analysis, and we identify areas both that are appropriate for development and appropriate for protection. We map everything in great detail. We map floodplains, wetlands, steep slopes, sewer and water lines, transit lines, and we identify those areas that are most appropriate for more compact forms of development and development in and around existing centers, and then areas like this one, which are really more appropriate for long-term preservation and protection. One of the most visible aspects of the Planning Commission's activities is the development of bikeways and walkways all around the region. The Norwottuck Trail was the first of those paths that our director Tim Brennan was involved in planning, and since that time we've been involved with trails including the Manhan Trail, the Connecticut River Walk, the Holyoke Canal Walk, the Southwick Rail Trail, and many others across the region.
Planners oftentimes are thought to be involved with physical things, infrastructure, buses, dams, etc. But I think much of our work is also encompassing the people side of the business, so to speak.
I don't think that people have any idea how pervasive domestic violence is. 20 to 40% safely of police time is spent responding to domestic violence. The schools spend a large percent of their money working with the special needs of traumatized children, which are most often families where there's domestic violence. In rural communities, the state police actually do a lot of the domestic violence response, because local police departments are usually part-time, which is challenging for them because a lot of times the troopers rotate, so you'll get a trooper into a barracks who's used to mostly doing the highway work, and all of a sudden they're going out on these domestic violence calls. Coordinated response is just so effective.
The local police chiefs meet with us in the barracks the first Monday of every month. There's a civilian advocate that comes into the barracks, once again supported by the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. She comes into the barracks and will make contact with the victims. The advocate will introduce them to other agencies that can take care of her. The numbers of events have gone down. The number of serious assaults has decreased in the hill towns.
But we do a lot of work in the schools. What we're trying to do in the schools is not only make sure that teenagers can identify the red flags of domestic violence, but also teach teenagers how to be active bystanders.
Having things like this interstate cooperation around the knowledge corridor, and then hooking it up with what we think are going to be real game changers, a real rail connection for both commuter and intercity trains, broadband fiber connection, which is the contemporary infrastructure that now runs up I-91. So a very, very eclectic mix of projects, but it's really important to try to take those plans and make them come alive. This is sort of a back to the future proposition. Rail is something that we had as a country and we nearly threw it entirely away. Congressman Over has always been a real champion of rail.
So the work of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has been critical in bringing forward the knowledge corridor concept in this modern day. to connect New Haven and Hartford and Springfield and on northward to the Vermont border and eventually possibly all the way to Montreal. We will be spending about $75 million across Massachusetts to put the Amtrak rail line back to the river, the old river route, which passes through all the major population areas, Chicopee, Holyoke, Northampton, and on to Greenfield. So there will be a much better route. We will save a lot of time, and it will be better for regional development.
We absolutely need high-speed internet in the hill towns. It's hard to do a home business because a lot of people do these businesses through online services, internet, and it just makes it nearly impossible. So to have broadband coming up here, it's really exciting. And in a lot of towns, the hot spot is the library. They'll resort to parking outside and catching the high-speed internet. So in Chesterfield, we've got people that park outside the library, which is perfectly fine. We encourage it.
You know, we're open 3 days a week, so we get people that come in every time we're open just to use the internet, to check their email, to look up things, to download, to make copies, whatever it is. Younger kids doing their work, resumes, job searches.
PVPC has also helped us with mapping. We were trying to figure out pre-planning, try and pre-plan incidents. If we have something on such and such a road, where do we get our water? Where is the best access for mutual aid? PVPC came in and helped us with the mapping, from basically satellite pictures, so you could get an overhead view of what everything looked like. It makes it much easier to do the planning.
Leadership Pioneer Valley is a 10-month leadership development program. It's for existing and emerging leaders from throughout the Pioneer Valley, and our mission is to identify, develop, and connect diverse leaders to better the Valley.
So this experience has allowed me to work with people from a very diverse cross-section of industry, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, or business, education, higher ed, and I've been able to learn some of the challenges that they face and how we can collaborate and work together. Working at You Aspire, we help young people and families afford and prepare to succeed in college. With strong leaders in our schools, with strong leaders in our communities, with strong leaders in our homes, we will be able to reverse some of the epidemics we have going on in this city and in this region.
50 years later, things have changed. Our world is filled with computers, smartphones, and social networks. Politics and popular culture have undergone countless transformations. The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has changed and grown as well. Its original planning district has expanded to include 43 communities, a space roughly equivalent in size to Rhode Island and home to more than 500,000 residents. Its agenda has never been broader. Its network of regional partners has never been wider. But one thing has not changed. Over these 50 years of challenges, opportunities, and successes, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission remains committed to improving the quality of life for all people in the Pioneer Valley. And its outlook for the region's future has never been brighter.
It really does come back to that sort of concourse of keeping this place a very special place for ourselves, our kids, and for generations to come. I mean, that is what planning is all about. Intelligently cooperating with the future is what we do.